We're diving into a heartbreaking story this week. A story about a 1-month-old baby. A baby who died. And now, months later, 3 people are facing some serious charges.
Yeah, this is one of those cases that really grabs you. The death of a child is always tragic, but the circumstances surrounding this one just adds layers to it. Layers of sadness, layers of questions.
Exactly. And that's what we're here to unpack. We're looking at the indictments of Adam Greene, the father, Amber Mick, the mother. And then there's Strother Craft, who was supposed to be caring for the baby. All 3 of them hit with involuntary manslaughter charges, obstructing justice, child endangerment, the whole 9 yards.
It's really unusual to see that many individuals indicted in a case like this. Usually you might see one parent, maybe both, but to have someone who was supposedly overseeing the care of the child also facing the same charges, that's a big deal. Tells you the prosecution believes they all had a hand in what happened.
So let's break this down. Let's start with involuntary manslaughter. It's different from murder, right? It implies there wasn't an intent to kill.
Exactly. With involuntary manslaughter, it's all about negligence or recklessness. It's like they're not saying these individuals woke up and said, hey, let's harm this baby. Instead, they're saying their actions or lack of action were so far outside the norm, so careless, that it resulted in the baby's death.
Okay, that makes sense. But what kind of actions or inactions are we talking about here? What would lead to a negligence charge in a case about a baby?
Well, you'd have to look for a pattern of behavior. Ignoring the baby's needs, not feeding them properly or keeping them clean, not taking them to the doctor when it's obvious something's wrong. Investigators would be looking at the living conditions, medical records, maybe even talking to people who knew the family, trying to build a picture of neglect.
And what about this obstructing justice charge? How does that factor into all of this?
Obstructing justice in a situation like this, well, it could be a lot of things. Maybe lying to the investigators, hiding evidence, trying to cover their tracks after the baby died. The police are going to want to know, did they try to interfere with the investigation? It definitely raises more questions.
It does. And then there's the added layer of Strother Craft. Our sources say he actually had some kind of agreement with Child Protective Services, that he was supposed to be caring for this baby and supervising the mother, Amber Mick. So what kind of agreement are we talking about here? What would give him that level of responsibility?
Well, it sounds like CPS was already involved with this family, and Kraft was brought in as a safeguard. Maybe there were concerns about Mick's ability to care for the baby. Could be because of those drug charges she's facing.
Right. So if Kraft was supposed to be providing care, supposed to be supervising, how did this baby still end up dead? I mean, doesn't that suggest maybe a failure on the part of CPS?
It's a question that needs asking for sure. Were there warning signs that were missed? Was Kraft not fulfilling his end of the agreement? Was there a breakdown in communication between Kraft, CPS, and the parents? It's hard to say without all the details.
It really is. And it's heartbreaking, especially considering the baby was only a month old.
And the indictments didn't come until months after the baby's death, which tells you this wasn't some rushed decision. They were building a case, gathering evidence, waiting on forensic reports. All of that takes time.
So let's try to put this all together. We've got a 1-month-old baby, found dead under circumstances we still don't fully understand. Parents facing serious charges. And then there's Kraft, who is supposed to be looking out for this child's safety. It's a lot to process.
It's a reminder that these cases, they're never simple. And it forces us to confront the fact that there are families out there, struggling, vulnerable, and sometimes the systems that are supposed to support them, they fail.
Yeah, it really is a tragic situation. And it makes you think about all those other families, those other children out there who might be in similar situations.
Absolutely. What happened to this baby is a tragedy. But maybe, just maybe, by talking about it, by pushing for answers, we can help prevent it from happening again.
We can demand better for the vulnerable families, for the children. It's about turning this sorrow into action. Thanks for joining us for this incredibly difficult but important deep dive. If you've been affected by the issues we've discussed today, please reach out. There are resources available to help. And keep asking questions. Keep digging for those answers.